Welcome, everyone, to the Unfiltered Podcast. My name is Stephenson, Executive Director of Church Planting with Converge.
I'm Danny Parmelee, and I oversee church planting for Converge Mid-America and Southeast.
And we are, for our Converge family churches, we're in the middle of, not even middle, we're still on the front end of a 5-year kind of campaign, a push of planting as many churches as we possibly can. We actually came up with a number, 312. We believe across the United States that an accurate number, totally doable, is that we can plant 312 churches in a 5-year span. And so we're doing everything we possibly can to kind of move that forward. Conversations, podcasts, everything. And so for our Converge churches, if you're unaware of that, we'd love for you to join in that process of helping us get towards that goal and even go beyond that. And if you're not a Converge church, join us in helping plant more churches in and around the United States as a whole.
So 312, Lee, where did that number come from? Because I know that sometimes when people make goals for things like, hey, we're going to plant 1,000 churches in 10 years or whatever, where did the number come from?
Great question, Danny. It really was something that our 10 districts worked over a year of kind of looking at their current trends, looking at honest conversations that they've had and coming up with an accurate number of going, I think, based on what our history is, based on the momentum that we see right now, that we should be able to plant this amount of churches over a 5-year span. Mm-hmm. And then we interacted over that. And so it gave me the ability to kind of go, well, you planted 2 churches in the last 10 years. I don't think you're going to plant 500 in the next 5 years. Let's revisit that number. And so through that process, through prayer, through conversation, all of our districts came together. And when you add all those numbers together, it's 312. Because it does sound a little, it's not this nice round number. We're going to do 300 churches. It's 312. And that's why it is distinct in that, which honestly, I like better.
Right.
Because I do think it's a little bit more accurate from that perspective.
Now I know, and obviously I was a part of that process. We deployed in 2020 2 churches, which was way below what we were tracking because of our trajectory. Was there any thought in revisiting the numbers, changing the numbers? Why or why not?
Yeah, I would say no, partly because the numbers came in pre-COVID, and we're trusting the Lord that He was in that process, that the amount of effort, the amount of energy, the prayer that was put in to help try to solidify that number is something that God knew. He knew COVID was coming when we were working on that whole year to try to come up with that number. And so we're holding to the fact that we believe that this is what God's doing. And I would say, yes, 2020 for Converge was a low year when it came total churches being planted. But on the flip side, we have more people in the pipeline to plant a church than any other in my history within Converge. And so they may not have all been on the grounds grand open, but I think that what we're seeing is we're still on pace to be able to hit that number.
That's great. Now, is it true that you and I both get fired if we do not hit the 312 number or my personal district goals? Is that
I think that's more on the district level.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Only me.
Level. Yeah.
Shoot, it's on the line. Now, part of the 312 is we're working towards kind of doing this church planting weekend this summer. Where did that kind of concept idea, what will that practically look like for our churches?
It's more of an awareness campaign than anything, because part of it's in there going, well, we have 1,500 churches-ish here in the United States. If each one of those churches planted one church in the next 5 years, I mean, we easily overcome our goal. But then it began to say, I wonder how many of these churches even have an awareness of what church planting is, why it's important, why they should have some level of involvement. Not every church reasonably is going to plant one church in the next 5 years. But they could play a part. They could be some level of encouragement. And so even if we sat there and go, man, if we could get a third of our churches playing the game and getting involved at some level, praying, raising up people from within to go out and plant a church, we easily reach our number. And so it's like, we've got to figure out a way to help our churches have that conversation, because I think a lot of it is maybe we get caught up in the tyranny of the urgent. We're so like, we got to deal, we need to respond to this. Yes, I know we should have this conversation about church multiplication and sending disciples, but I just haven't had time to think about it. And so some of it is, I think the conversations just aren't happening because of everything else that's going on in life. And so we dedicated kind of going, hey, we want every Converge church to set aside time on the first Sunday of June or sometime between Mother's Day and Father's Day. If we get the majority of them on that one Sunday, we'd say, hey, across our entire movement, we're all having this conversation. Even if it's a 2-minute conversation, that's a win. Is just talk about the need. What's going on in our climate when it comes to population trends and the lack of churches to connect, and how do we maintain even the status quo when it comes to the number of churches, the amount of people in the United States. And so we set aside, this is the first time, like church planning weekend, would you have this conversation and just join the process and help us raise awareness? Because I do believe that a lot of our churches, they could at least have one person in their church that maybe God has called and even anointed to plant a church, but nobody's actually ever brought up the idea. And so because they haven't brought up the idea, they don't even have the awareness that this is a thing, and that there's systems and there's finances and there's processes to help them birth that dream that God's planted in their life.
Give, if you can, just even practical example of how a church plant could participate in this weekend, and then also how a church maybe that has never, church planting isn't in their DNA at all, but all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, that actually sounds good. How could they participate?
Wonderful question. We've got a whole platform of resources. So if you go to the church, the Converge website, just converge.org, go to the church planning. On there is kind of a resources page, also talks about church planning weekend. Just click on that button and you'll see all the resources that we've made available. So we've got prayer guides, we've got sermon talking points, we've got how to incorporate it into an announcement. We've got multiple videos that you could pick and choose from. We have ones that are heartfelt, that just show like the impact that a church plant has within the life of a community. Or we have ones that are on the more number awareness side. Like, this is why, just based on the research, why we need more churches to be started across the United States. And so we even have basic, like, hey, if you want to give the entire Sunday to this, here's how a service could look, from song choice to where you put in the video to here's sermon talking points. We even have couple complete sermons that pastors could download and kind of work into their context and their situation, add their stories. The goal is we want to make it as easy as possible for anybody to have part of this conversation. And so we're asking, would you at least introduce the idea, talk about why you're excited to be a part of the Converge church planning movement, show one of the videos, maybe you take some time, pray. They could bring a church planter on the stage, pray over that church planter. If they want to take an offering that goes towards district church planting efforts, fantastic. If you're a young church plant, just talk about, hey, this is the family that helped us get started, and highlight, like, we want to continue the process. We want to continue what other people have done for us to build into other churches. And so we're going to continue to talk about this. We're going to continue to look and pray and then give the invite too. Like, for some of you that are in the room, maybe God's calling you to be that next guy that starts a new church. Talk to me after a service, and then they call Danny to kind of close the deal. But know that those situations,
$5 referral card, right? So $5.
There you go.
$5 Starbucks referral card. So,
but my biggest thing is I want to see our churches join the process, join the effort. Let's do the heavy lifting together. Multiple hands make light lifting. And so what could God do if the majority of our churches engage this conversation and prayed? I think could be overwhelming of what we would see God do. So that's what I'm excited about. Join us. If you need more information, contact us through the Converge website as well. And they can register if they're interested in that and be able to download any of those resources. Thanks, friends. This has been the Unfiltered Podcast. Until next time, keep it real.